let's say we go in and say, oh, here's our big AI strategy. You should buy some of it. They're like,
Yep.
oh, that's really nice.
Yep.
And XYZ companies, you can go and find out who they all are. I don't have to list them all here. They all said the same thing. So why are you different?
Sure.
And we can position all we want. They're like, you know what? Show us. And it's not show me your product, a demo.
Show me my data in your product.
Show me my problem solved in your product right here in front of you. In fact, take it to the borderline of production.
Jeff, welcome to the Go-to-Market Shift.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you in person too.
I know.
How many years?
Well, I think we saw each other February, 2023 or 24 when I missed my flight to Australia for filling out my visa wrong. And so I took a drive down to Dallas. I think that was the last time I saw you.
That was your mistake, was my benefit on that.
Hey, it takes two, right? So I'm really glad to have you here, Jeff, because I feel like, one, I'm very appreciative of, I think, the time you've invested in our relationship. I got to know you through Pre-Sales Collective. You were the big dog in the solutions profession. And I said, hey, I need to talk to this guy to understand, what best in class looks like at scale. And so I'm very thankful for the last, 4 or 5 years we've got to know each other.
That goes the same for me. And by the way, because you got to start with the story, right? And I can remember us recording our first podcast that you used to do with Pre-Sales Collective together. And you don't know this because that was during the pandemic, so we're all stuck in our houses. Yeah. And I was out at my lake house in a very dark room doing an audio recording that we would that you, I think, spliced together later on. I just remember sitting there like in the dark with my eyes closed, and you're talking to me, and you have a very deep voice.
It was the mic. That was
all the mic.
It was the mic. We've had a couple of those, so it's great to talk in person. I think for you, one thing that I want to call out is what I hear about you when I ask about you is that so many people tell me, oh, I've talked to Jeff, I've met Jeff, I have recurring meetings with Jeff. But what is that strategy for you as a leader? Like, why do you continue to invest in so many folks that are, in your business and outside your business?
Yeah, I mean, I always feel honored that I was able to have this much success, somewhat success, I guess, maybe in my own career. And I think back at being 22 years old, walking into my first office with my briefcase, because that's what we had to do. You young kids will go YouTube it up. You'll find out what that is. But, I think back to that and I go, I wish I had a mentor that was willing to not just like, hey, guide my career, but be very personable, care about what they're doing. And I'm always interested and open to talking to anybody really about that. Because I truly love our profession in that, I was always a tech guy, right? I had my little computer back in the 80s and I used to code on it, did whatever I did and played video games like, a lot of people that get started in our profession. But then when I discovered this side of it, the pre-sale, solution consulting, whatever terminology we want to use these days, because I know that's a big floating topic, I was like, wow, like who wouldn't want to do this? It's like an opening of the eyes of, there's more to it than just sitting in a bullpen coding. I love that too, and that's what I did for a long time, but there was a lot more to it.
Well, I respect that and I commend that, right? Because, as someone who, my parents never went to college, they never did anything. I just kind of always wished that I had someone who would show me the way, made it a little bit easier. And now with kids that are younger, I see what it's like to have someone who's kind of been there, done that. So I commend you for that.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your journey, because you've had quite the journey. So, talk us, briefly through the companies that you're at and kind of the growth that you went through at those companies.
Yeah, we'll go partially all the way back. We don't need to go into every little company that I did before I moved into bringing in the pre-sales world. But, for probably the first, I think it was about 8 to 10 years. I can't remember exactly how much it was at this point. I was a coder. I mean, I would sit and do requirements gathering with customers, a very old school style, the waterfall methodology. Hey, do you like this? Is this what you wanted to do? Here's what we're going to solve. And then myself, and whether I worked with a bunch of people or even by myself, sometimes I would code it. Yeah. I'd build the databases, go into Unix and, get it all set up and all that. I did that for a long time. And I thought that was my career. I was starting to do a little bit more architecture type work, but at the same time, I was doing it in a consulting world. So I was working, think of it like a contract programming of sorts for like a boutique type development company. And I was starting to help I didn't know what salespeople were, a sales call. I knew what a salesperson
Yeah.
was. My dad was a sales guy. He sold, pigs. Let's not get into that.
That's a salesperson,
If you'd like to buy 10,000 pounds of pork, my dad was the guy. Let's just put it that way, right? The Bacon King of Manitoba. But anyways, and I knew what that was, but I didn't know what that was in the business world like we live in. And then I happened to meet this guy in the 90s, and I kid you not, one day I'm working at what today is Verizon. It was called GTE back then. And he came by my little cube that I was working at on site. He's like, hey, can you come to this meeting? I'm like, yeah, sure. Brad, love to help you out. We go to this meeting, and he's like, tell them why you think we can solve this problem, how we're going to do it, et cetera, et cetera. And I go through all that, and then come to find out after, I asked him, like, what was that meeting about? I don't understand. He goes, no, that was like a sales call. We just closed a deal, like $2 million. Like, let's go celebrate. What? We closed a deal for $2 million?
What?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
What did I do? Right. And I got a little taste of that. And then as time went on, I remember working at, it was a small boutique telecom company. And we were doing what's called a Power Builder, which is long gone. SAP actually owns that product these days. It's probably even gone. I don't think it exists anymore. Every 3 to 4 months, this a guy and a girl used to come by and tell us about the new features of Power Builder. And I'm like, oh, this is great. They tell us a little bit, and then eventually I'd have more questions, because that's what I was doing. I was like an architect level in Power Builder. And there was the guy, he was their SE, by the way, come to find out. And I'd ask him all these questions, he'd answer them, he'd be great. And then finally I'm like, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
And this is back in the late 90s, of what I would say the renaissance of when really, in my opinion, pre-sales got started. There wasn't that many companies that were deploying that type of go-to-market model. And then I had a friend that was working for Web Methods at the time. I had met him through some other relationships years ago. He was the director of pre-sales at Web Methods, and he said, hey, you should come over here and be an SE. I was like, oh yeah, that was like that guy.
Yeah.
It's the dream come true. And I got my first start
Wow.
as being an SE in 2002.
Wow.
And around there.
And then you went to, fascinating story, by the way, and love the background, because I'm sure many people don't even realize you have that type of development background. You were at VMware for a decade, is that right?
Yeah, so after Web Methods, I stayed there 3 years. I went to work for, VMware, which was a really small company. I mean, we had maybe 250, 280 employees.
Wow.
The founder was still the CEO. It was a husband and wife team. She was the CEO, and he was essentially like the chief scientist, chief development officer.
Wow.
They were also there. My first sales calls were with Dr. Mendel Rosenblum, who's one of the founders of VMware. And yeah, I got my start there. I was a manager at that point.
Okay.
So I had, and you had to play player coach. We were way too small.
Yeah.
And I had 5 SCs for 15 US states.
Wow.
That around from Texas all the way up to the Canadian border. And I mean, amongst, working with your own teams to develop them, I also had to go and do that. But what was interesting, I didn't have an infrastructure background. I was a coder.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, servers and networking and fiber channel and IP switch, what? Like, I knew none of this terminology. I did a bit of fake it till you make it.
Yeah, it happens.
Let's be clear. But yeah, I really got the things going with
Cool.
VMware. I stayed there 10 years.
Yeah. And then you joined ServiceNow. How big was ServiceNow when you joined?
Big ServiceNow, that was 2015. So we were already public. We had probably around, I think, 1,600 employees.
Okay.
Revenue, maybe the 200 to 300 million range.
Yeah.
SE wise, when I joined, I was brought on to run the Americas.
Okay.
So we had about 110, 120 or so SEs for America. So it'd be Canada, the US, Latin America.
Wow.
At the time.
And today, ServiceNow is obviously a tech darling. Wall Street's one of the finest. Over $10 billion in revenue. Is that correct?
Yep. We crossed 10 billion last year.
Wow. And how many solutions folks in that business?
SEs were probably, I'll round it up to around 2,600 at this point globally.
Wow.
And then now I run the entire global.
So what was, this is a loaded question, but like, what was one major takeaway that you've continued to hammer home from the $200-300 million of ServiceNow to crossing the 10 billion mark?
As far as like the SE team themselves and how we should go to market around it? Yeah. When I got to ServiceNow, we had 1.5 products, I'll call it. We had ITSM, which we're still known for today. It's our flagship product. That hasn't changed. It's evolved, et cetera. And then we had just started selling French fries with the burgers, which was IT operations. It was a sort of a bolt-on to what IT service management did. And that was the first time where we weren't just doing what they lovingly used to refer to when I got there, called a hook demo.
The hook demo.
The hook demo. Everybody needs a hook demo, right?
Wow.
Well, I didn't know what that was either, and I'll explain it too clearly here.
I got a guess, but I'm excited to hear what it means.
Well, the hook demo was, at the time, ServiceNow's competitors in the marketplace for ITSM was dominated by CA and BMC in particular, even HP, all three of them. They were way bigger than ServiceNow.
Wow.
ServiceNow was really growing fast, grabbing market share, et cetera. And essentially the sales model, the go-to-market, was find one of those three, find those accounts, which is easy to go and do, and then go in there and, do a little bit of setup with them and then do a hook demo. You would hook them in.
Yeah.
Those products were so,
Yeah.
no disparagement to the companies, their user interfaces were just downright awful.
Yeah.
And ServiceNow was born in the cloud-based technology.
Had an advantage.
And it literally be our SEs would just walk in and say, I know what you're doing. IP, incident, problem, change, ITIL, this, that, the other thing.
Yeah.
Let me show you what we can do. And I mean, you'd have customers crying.
Wow.
It'd be so good. But the problem with that is that has an assumption of being, hey, we're just going to go sell to doing a better mousetrap. By the way, if you can do that in the markets they were in at the beginning, it's awesome. You can grow a phenomenal business. But when we started selling that French fry component, now you're a bolt-on. There was hundreds of competitors in the operations management space. You couldn't just do the hook demo. Now you had to do what I call the more traditional SE work, which is, well, what's the real problem? What are you trying to solve? Here's the issues we can fix. We did have a lot of good out-of-the-box based solutions, so you could fish quickly. Go find those problems and go solve them. But that was probably the biggest fundamental changes that happened. And then, where it went from there, because we were still selling mostly to an IT buyer, about, that was 2015. So in 2017, 2018, in and around that time frame, we were really taking off. At that time, we were already over $1 billion in revenue. And we started moving into two brand new spaces. So one was in the HR world and one was in the customer service management world. So think Workday and Salesforce, essentially, for the most part. Well, those are new buyers. Well, our teams didn't know how to go sell, especially to a customer service management. We wanted to walk in and talk speed and feed. Someone running a call center that's doing support for, Walmart, speed and feed. No, their speed and feed is mean time to resolution for solving a customer problem, cost to serve, RMA reduction, all these kinds of things. That was a huge shift.
Yeah, it is a huge shift.
Yeah, and so we had to really change how we were doing things around our go-to-market model just for that.
And obviously, ServiceNow nailed that, as with the broad, product portfolio now. But I assume that that's still a core pillar of what you're doing today, right? There's so many new spaces and categories that I feel like ServiceNow is entering in. There's got to be a lot of change and enablement and education of your team to be able to go and sell to those verticals companies.
Yeah. So I'll give you two. Well, one's a funny story, and then kind of toward the question you're asking me. So at the time in 2017, when we started putting out these products, so especially the HR and the customer service management solution sets, our CEO at the time was Frank Slootman, who was at Snowflake, and then he's essentially since retired. He's on boards or he's on a sailboat or whatever he does these days. He's probably out in the ocean right now. He did not want us to move into those markets, especially the customer service one. You go read his book, he actually talks about it.
I realize that.
Yeah, he was very, very against it because he felt that was too far away from our traditional buyer. He knew that was going to be a problem. And it was funny because the company was kind of split around that. Like, yeah, let's go take Salesforce on. But yeah, we don't know how to go do that. I mean, we're comfortable we'd taken on all these other companies. That wasn't the issue. It was the buying community, the buying center. These kinds of things were going to be pretty difficult. Luckily, cooler heads prevailed because, those like customer service, our CRM product nowadays, that's a well over $1 billion franchise. And we grew it organically. Same thing with our employee workflows, what we refer to it now. That's over $1 billion in revenue, and that was grown organically. And so the move into those, like I said, he did not really want us to do that because it did require us to essentially go build out, we have a complete overlay sales model to do it. But at the core, it's still service management. So the majority of our teams were able to at least understand the basic principles of it. And especially like on the employee side, we're all employees. We all kind of get when needs to happen. Maybe you don't understand payroll or policy, but you kind of get that. And we were built around HR service delivery was the start. And then, nowadays, back to your other part of the question of, we can go into all these things, so that my comment around this, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Hey, that's fair.
And I'll give you a great example. Even we've had some failures, very few. But we just, as an example, we moved into legal service delivery.
Okay.
We thought the legal profession was underserved, and we can create a workflow, out of the box workflows for, legal process. It's true, by the way, our own, legal department, our legal counsel, they use that. But when we went to the market, what we realized quickly is, wow, that's a very fragmented world. And there's very few buyers that are not used to buying technology. They kind of shun it, I would say, somewhat. We knew nothing about it other than getting our legal counsel involved, and they can only do so many calls. They kind of have a full-time job. And essentially, I wouldn't say it's a failure. We kind of still have the product, but we've mostly shut down those components.
Interesting. Yeah, that's fascinating. Did not know that about Slootman. I have his book on the to-read list, but there's lots of things on the to-read list.
Yep.
Let's talk about, today, ServiceNow, your role in AI transformation, right? ServiceNow continues to be the darling as it relates to AI. And something I heard in the last earnings report is that ServiceNow is projecting over $1 billion in AI revenue this year. I mean, as a leader, is this the only thing everybody is talking about? Are you, still talking about the core products that got you where you are, or is like, this is the fastest growth lever, this is everything?
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of all of those components.
Yeah.
Let me walk you through some pieces. Obviously, I'm not the engineering side. We got really smart people that go do that, luckily, that go build our products. But I would say, from what I can tell right now, in both the customer reaction, what I know enough technology-wise, or our own teams are looking at, we've done a pretty good job at doing it, because we've taken a kind of a dual strategy as it relates to artificial intelligence, right? So what we did, first of all, is we did create our own LLM. We call it an SLM, by the way. It's a small language model.
By the way, you were one of the first people who told me that, and now Thomas Tungsten and some of these VCs are actually talking about it as well. So I want to give you
Make sure you give me some credit for that. I didn't coin that. Other people inside the company start talking about that. But those SLMs, they're trained on our customers' data. We get the permission and all of those kinds of things, but it only understands the kind of data that we have within our databases. By the way, and here's the funny one I always use with our customers, because I got to go and present quite often to large audiences or executives or whatever, and they start going like, what does that mean? I go, let me give you this way. I go, listen, if you want to ask our small language model, the now LLM is actually what we refer to it, why is my PC broken? A very common thing that's in our incident databases, because ITSM. It's going to be pretty good at answering those kinds of questions. We've trained it on that type of data. But if you want to ask it, how do I cook the best scrambled eggs in the world? It would have no clue. It'll actually just run back, I don't know how to answer that. Wow. Go over to ChatGPT or whatever favorite version you'd like to do. It'll give you a beautiful answer on how to cook best scrambled eggs.
Right.
But it's only going to use publicly available information on the internet on how to fix your specific laptop. It might get it right, by the way, but our accuracy levels are way higher when we do that. So because that's how we got started, and then we got started also by doing what we call a curated version of AI. Okay. You couldn't train our models. You couldn't really provoke it to do other things other than it's actually 5 functions is all we really offered. You could invoke those things in code, but you just did that through an API. Yeah. You couldn't just go, like the kind of thing that I did. We didn't allow that. And so that's been beneficial when we stick to those things. Now, what's also happened is that's not enough. So we now have bring your own LLM. Okay. You have one that you've created that's custom. You want to just bring ChatGPT 5. You want to bring Azure OpenAI, et cetera, et cetera. We allow full integration with any of those AI-based companies. Now, our big differentiator, though, is all about the workflow. Yeah. So you can have an LLM come up with why you have a problem. That's part of it. Sure. By the way, kind of everybody's doing that right now. We go, oh, we noticed that your PC's broken. Let's let you know that an agent will come in, tell you that. Well, by the way, we have the workflow to fix it. How about, is that okay? Do you want us to just do that? It's amazing. Click. Well, nowadays what you can do is, the average customer has about 600 or 700 call them customized or configured workflows within their environment. We call them catalog items.
Yeah.
Those can all be converted into AI agents now. We've got an agent builder that'll let you do that. So I think a lot of those things are what's happening. In the last year, I'll answer your last, part of the question was, is this all you're talking about? Up until maybe 6 months ago, I would say we were talking about a lot, but it wasn't the only thing. Now, I mean, me personally, I don't do a meeting that's not AI focused. And I would venture a guess the majority of our teams were leading with that. I mean, I just talked to a CIO at a company. I won't say who it is. The account team's been having trouble because the customer doesn't want to buy any of our AI solutions. And I went to the CIO and I said, listen, like, I know you trust us, you're using our software, it's great, but like, how could you not use our AI interfaces now? Do you really want to use forms and lists and the old way of doing things? Your users will revolt around that. Like, there's no doubt today.
What was the response?
Oh, you're right. It's a host of issues. The board doesn't want us to spend money. The governance, AI compliance. I mean, that's like a whole other.
That's a whole other
conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think what's so interesting about that is that I feel like we're hearing two different sentiments on customer adoption right now. It's like customers are risk adverse to AI. They don't trust it. They don't believe it. They don't want to take that risk. And then you have this other, mantra of the world of like, you have to move as fast as possible right now because now's the place to get a competitive advantage. So as much as you could speak to this, like, where do you see your customers? Obviously, the projected growth tells a certain story, but I assume that's not everything.
No, it's not everything. And I would say that our success, and I can't compare per se to anybody else.
Right.
We might be doing better than a lot of them due to the way our revenue is sitting, but our curated model really has been beneficial to get our customers going because it took out some of the risks. There's a lot of customers that come to us and say, oh, well, I'm just going to do all that in Copilot. And technically you can do a lot of the things our AI software, we call it Now Assist, does, but you're going to code that. You're going to go get your own LLM. You're going to code it up. You're going to access our databases and APIs, and you're going to have to figure this out. We literally, like a basic thing, like a case summarization, right, which was like the popular thing a year and a half ago when we first started. The only decision really around is, where would you like to put the button? Like, that was all it was. You just invoked it and you sent it, here's the case information, and it summarized the whole thing. It was trained on that. It was really easy to do. And so I think because we did a lot of that, first of all, we built a lot of trust. We did get a lot of customers to go into production. We're at about 16 or 1,700 current customers, which a lot of them are in production for real. In fact, because it is publicly available, I think it's still our largest customer in the world, which is Teleperformance. They're doing 1 million assists a week right now, which is a pretty significant amount.
That's a lot.
That they've got. They're an outsourced call center, so they're banging away doing all kinds of stuff on those things. But they, I've met with the CIO many times, and he's essentially like, what else do you have? Like, this is game changing for us in both the service we offer and the money that we can save. What else do you have next? And when we came out with Agentic, he's like, great, I'm going to switch everything over to Agentic now.
So as, a leader of a big solutions organization, right? How are you empowering your leaders, enabling the organization to move with the market, right? That's a big thing to do when there's, thousands of employees in a business.
Yeah, there's really, I see that as two sides. So there's I'll call it the AI that's in ServiceNow. So that's our product suite that we can talk about. And then there's forget ServiceNow. Here's all these cool toys and goodies and tools.
There's a lot of them.
Maybe we can use some of those to make things better. So let me do both sides, if that's okay. Internally, one of the things that, and I wouldn't say we're struggling, but we're working on this right now, and this is not an easy lift. For years, our platform without all the AI stuff in it, I wouldn't say it's relatively easy to use, but you didn't have to do a lot of coding. It was just a configuration type thing. If you want pink backgrounds and blue lettering and boxes like this, there's a little more than that. And then our flow designer, which is how you create workflows, it's a boxes and arrows type thing, and you might do a tiny bit of script. And that would be enough to showcase things to our customers. Plus, we have a huge demo organization. We've got Demo Hub to go and pull these off the shelf and give to people. So we had a lot of facility where you had to be technical on our product, but you didn't have to go super deep. And that made it faster, by the way. It's the best way to do it if you can. Well, AI changed that. So now, if we're going to go to a customer, we've got to show them agents. Now, you don't have to code all that, but we do have a thing called an agent builder, and you are going to have to do some scripting. You're going to have to put a lot more forethought into how this works. Our team's a little unequipped or ill-equipped right now for that. So literally, it seems like every month we're almost running another training session on how to do agent builder. Here's how to, never mind how to create things, how to actually go and configure our own platform to work that way, because it's not as simple as some of the other stuff. And then let's go build them. Then, by the way, what is it we're going to build? Like there's a whole process that has to live behind that. So we're dealing with that internally, and we'll get there. We're making a lot of good progress, and we spun up, we've got about a 60-person, I'll call it AI expert team, that they're like tip of the spear to get things going. And then we've got a set of champions that live underneath them that are people they kind of train out in the field. And then they have like the general population. Right. So that's how, we're attempting to scale that, but that is not it'll be done next week. That's not going to work. And what's happened as well, in the age of AI, we used to rev our product every 6 months for the most part. We'd patch in between, we'd do little things. Now you're doing it every 2 months. And these aren't little like tweaks that we're making. They're full functional styled releases, I'll call them.
Unbelievable.
Our SEs, to keep up with that is really hard.
$10 billion company releasing every 2 months. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot right now. So it's a lot for them to keep up with. Now there's that other side. Okay. So forget ServiceNow, the product suites and all that, although there is some connectivity between the two of them. Now on the other side, you go, okay, so how can we make our jobs better, faster, cheaper, stronger, more efficient, whatever you want to call it? And that can come from all kinds of areas. Some that are very apparent to a lot of people that are playing around with these things. It's, okay, I go to my Chat GPT, my Perplexity, whatever flavors you'd like to use. We actually have enterprise licensing to Claude, Chat GPT, and I think Grok are the three that we offer internally. And then obviously lots of people go choose their own routes. And doesn't matter. But of course, you get this data problem.
Well, that's what I was going to ask about that.
There's really not much, don't do it, but I guarantee you people are
going to do it.
Yeah. So you just tell them, hey, like be careful with like the customer names. You can say instead of it's General Motors, it's an auto manufacturer, the big three in Detroit, and let it go kind of figure that out. But that kind of is what it is. I'm not going to go police that thing. I'll let her.
It's too hard to police it. It might slow you down.
In compliance and all that, like, hey, don't go put real customer data out there, but all that. Anyway, but the research side, clearly that's one of the best places. And we have lots of sharing going on how to do the proper prompt engineering to start getting, as example, both, hey, what should I talk to the customer about or use cases? Those are two really good areas. Yes, you can do all the, hey, go get a 10K, summarize it, tell me this and that and the other thing. Those are great too. But, those two in particular seem to be really strong at I'll say the more the beginning of sales cycles. If you're trying to do something, with a customer, those are phenomenal. But the big areas that we're really excited about right now is, I mentioned before is the tying together piece of that. It's really hard for us to teach multi-thousands of SEs the entire agent building experience. And even if we can do that, and we will, by the way, do that, well, we're having to do a lot more POVs and POCs now, more than ever before. In fact, we're in the midst of even switching some of our go-to-market strategy and saying, you know what, instead of avoiding them, we used to avoid POC like the plague. As much as we could delay.
We've had this conversation before, so.
Why not, right? Delay it. But now we're going to lean into it because for all kinds of reasons that would take too long to walk through, we're going to do more of those. So that also means, hey, our SEs are going to have to do more of that work. Okay, we got to train them, but isn't there better ways to do it now? So luckily, we're a big user of Miro as an example. Most of the SEs know how to do that. We have a site license to be able to use it. So they can go in and they can create nice Miro boards that lay out hey, here's a workflow that the customer has. And we say, well, with this, if we could automate this in some way, would that solve your problems? Customer says yes. Well, nowadays, you can take things like that, pump them into things like Obsidian, which then can understand it, and then we can connect it over to Cursor.
That's insane.
And we can pump code. Cursor, you can give it our entire product documentation suite and tell it, code these things in this version of our software. Today's most newest release is called YP6. Do it in YP6. come back in a few minutes, and here you go. All the flows are in there. The agents
Yeah.
are kind of built. You still got to wire things up.
Sure.
It's not perfect, but it's a huge time saver.
Well, there's so many things I want to break down there. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of POCs and POVs and try before you buy. I think if you've got good products that actually deliver value, you have a competitive advantage to do those things, even though we've all spent decades of our career running against them. And I get it for all intents and reasons. But what you just mentioned about using those tools and getting those gains, I haven't shared this as much publicly, but like this is what has me shook. I got introduced to some of these things in about February and March of this year, and it made me question everything in my career. It made me question, what am I selling? Why am I selling it? Why would somebody buy my software? Why would somebody buy this software? Because it almost feels like app layers are going to zero. And I know that's an aggressive comment, but a general thesis of you no longer have to buy vendor to get an output that you need. And if these solutions, it's why Lovable is the fastest company to $100 million, can do these things overnight and make someone who, not you, me, not as technical, hands on the keyboard, be able to build these type of applications. Wow, that changes everything for me.
Yep. Just to be clear, my own team will laugh if you call me more technical. I just want to preface.
Technical backgrounds.
Not you guys. I'm looking at the camera over there. Right? That's okay. But one thing that really has gone on there, yeah, you have all these great tool sets, and kind of back to the POV thing. What's really interesting, because you mentioned the try before you buy, the self-service orientation. I'm actually not talking about that. That's still happening, and that there's a lot of cool stuff there's going on in that market. But if you think about the big enterprise companies right now, in the world, ones that we try to sell to as an example, not only are they not even interested in try before you buy, what they're saying is, if you're interested in selling to us, come in here and prove it.
Right. Yeah.
And 100%. Not prove your technology because I have to tell you what to do. No. I want you to go and make it work in front of me right now. And if we don't do it, our competition is all doing it. So what's happened now, there's a movement that's going on in the world called forward deployed engineers.
Oh, that's where I want to go next. So
we're going there. Yeah. Of course, there's an acronym out there. And we're definitely playing around in those spaces at the same time, because what customers are saying to us, let's say we go in and say, oh, here's our big AI strategy, you should buy some of it. They're like, oh, that's really nice. And XYZ companies, you can go and find out who they all are. I don't have to list them all here. They all said the same thing. So why are you different?
Sure.
And we can position all we want. They're like, you know what? Show us. And it's not show me your product, a demo.
Show me my data in your product.
Show me my problem solved in your product right here in front of you. In fact, take it to the borderline of production. That's what he is doing.
Wow. I mean, that is what I think is the fundamental shift that's happening in software, right? And I think to your point, like my comments on try before you buy, I agree with all the things that you mentioned, because we've been doing demos and generic demos, and even this is what my issue with the solutions profession is. We say we're doing custom demos, and a damn logo and color and someone's product is not a custom demo, right? It never has been, it never will be. But to your point, how things have shifted is tremendous. I want to give a shout out to one of my colleagues, Frederick Demetz. This is about 10 years ago at Showpad. We had an experienced app engineer team in our solutions engineering process, because we were trying to sell a product that was too nuanced. And so we started building art of the possible in our sales process, which was very similar to the forward deployed engineer. And I think you and I have had this conversation off camera about like, where does the FDE actually sit? Because I think my bias is like, solutions profession should be technical enough to have an arm that does art of the possible, that works with R&D but isn't part of R&D, so R&D can build core products. But I think there's a other school of thought is the FDEs should come from engineering, because that's the core resource. So I'm curious where your head's at on this.
So I'll start off with a similar shout out, because we went down the same path. We have a thing called the Workflow Design Studio that's been around for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. And we had maybe little pockets of it, but honestly, we looked over at one of our competitors and what Salesforce was doing with KeyBranch. Luckily for us, they since have abandoned most of it. And Todd Jansen.
Shout out to Todd for building that.
Yeah, it's up to them. I mean, in fact, we were first even looking at it. we went and talked to other companies that were doing it, Salesforce in particular, but SAP had some stuff and IBM and all that. I like to say we took the best of what they were all doing and created our own, versions of it. But it definitely had a component of that.
Yeah.
We adopted our own design thinking type style, formats and process. And then we hired actually a bunch of designers and UX UI designers so that you can come in and build nice looking prototypes.
Wow.
They would show the customer like, okay, this is the most they give us these big business processes and be like, wow, like this will take us months to build. Why don't we pick the most important components of it that really are the heart of it, and we'll prototype those. And quite often it's a little mobile app you might get, and then it's accessing some backend, process and system sitting behind the scenes, and they'd get a real feel for it. Now, what shifted is this FDE, forward deployed engineering. It is a little different in that I don't know where it all should live today.
And maybe it doesn't matter, right?
Maybe it doesn't matter, but one thing that's incongruent with what solution consultants, pre-sales people do is that this take it to production methodology that is going on there. I don't see that as a skill set living in the pre-sales world. A lot of the things they're doing are in our pre-sales world, but a lot of it also on the engineering, and that's why that engineering component is coming into it. And I think there's even a bit of misnomer. I don't think they're all necessarily, R&D engineering types. Although you might see some of that. I know our own folks are doing some of that. If we show up to a customer and our products don't do these things just yet, guess what? Hey, we just built it, right? Next thing you know, patch 7's coming out, and it has those capabilities built into it. But the whole concept is to get it as close to production and in like an MVP type format.
Right.
I don't know a lot of SCs that do that much on these platforms.
Agreed. But do you think as we see the evolution of pre-sales, right? I don't love this word anymore because I think that when you move to consumption based, you move to credits, this concept of pre-sales actually goes away, and as more traditional SaaS models move to that, doesn't that lead more to the solutions org, and it's actually like a value oriented role that actually can be tied to revenue?
Yeah, it is. I'm not denying all of that. But I would say that the consumption models, like the vis-a-vis the Databricks or Snowflake, are the two I always think about in a real application-oriented consumptive model. The hyperscalers are consumptive, but they're just selling, servers and networking and those kinds of things. But the Snowflakes and the Databricks of the world, they do a consumptive model out in their sales teams, and so their sales rep and their solution consultant are paid about compensation, right? Incentives. They're paid on the consumptive or the consumption side, and they typically are married with a CS person, or the SE might be that CS person. I think it all depends on how they're doing things. So I see the intermixing of some of that with what might happen in this forward deployed engineering style. I don't think anybody has it all right at this point. Even Palantir, who likes to advertise the hell out of that.
They have. I mean, it's working well for them. They got some good publicity, and they're doing well. So
I'll take their valuation anytime.
So. All right. So as we're talking about changes and evolution, one of the things that I feel like you and I have talked about throughout the years is the evolution of the pre-sales or solutions profession. Is there one or two things that are on top of mind for you that you think will fundamentally change over the next couple of years? Especially in this AI world, right?
Yeah. So I'll go with this. I think there's a bit of fear that's going on, and I see, all kinds of pundits to talk about it. There's enough, I'm sure, consultants today trying to make money off of that. Let me tell you how you should align your go-to-market orgs and all these things, and go look at. By the way, there's a new thing right now called go-to-market engineering.
I know
that's going on.
I did an interview series with one of the premier ones, one of the first ones. It's pretty fascinating.
I'm pretty fascinated with that too. I'm listening to a lot of podcasts in and around that. Do I think you're going to get rid of your SEs? No. Is it going to change how we work? Yes. Some of the things I just talked about will exist. But and I think you could apply that same type of mentality to any job in the white collar world.
I agree.
Where AI may not replace you. It might replace certain jobs. I don't want to be the guy to go decide that one. But it's going to make you better at doing what you do. And so at least, you gotta learn what the tools are, how to use them, etc. Now, I do think it's going to change how we approach customers because you're going to be better armed.
Yeah.
I think what you might see companies do, and I'm speculating at this point, this isn't something that ServiceNow is doing today. You might see companies train their own internal models on customer buying patterns, their own product suites, train up the solution sets. Here's the value that applies to it, and then start going, okay, well, let's prospect the heck out of it.
Yeah.
With that type of information. I think you'll get better qualified leads out of that.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you're going to have to use AI along with an SC to go to talk to the customer. Now, where there could be a couple things. One, obviously the forward deployed engineering, which we talked about.
Right.
That could change it. We don't need to, necessarily rehash that one, but there could be a world where you might see the need for a little bit less salespeople.
Yep.
And you could have these hybrid SE sales-ish things because AI could replace a lot of that front end stuff that I don't think SEs are very good at.
Yeah.
But I don't find SEs are good at negotiation either, and I don't see AI fixing that one anytime.
Frontline managers, though.
Frontline manager could do it, where you could have a sales-oriented one working with some hybrid type folks. I think that's a possibility.
Well, it's a good call out because I think it's been a topic of conversation of, a lot of solutions teams are getting cut right now. And I've seen a lot of solutions folks move to AE roles. And I think as the role of the AE changes, this is something, that's top of mind. And I think, obviously TestBox was an early stage company, but I ran all of go-to-market. And I had to make those decisions on where you invest in marketing, where you invest in sales, reps, productivity, quotas, solutions. And it made me just think about the solutions profession differently and what I needed my role of my AE to be. And I think that changed a lot over the, 2 years that I was at that business.
Yep.
So one of the things I was going to ask you about was like, what's not going to change? So I think you've already answered that. As a leader who's been, through multiple phases of tech, multiple phases on the journey, you've seen hyper growth. What advice do you have out there for senior leaders, whether it's solutions leaders, sales leaders, CX leaders, on how you bring your organization successfully through this change? Because I think that is the scariest thing right now is like a lot of people haven't been there, done that. So how do you do that?
Yeah. So let's look at it maybe from two sides. There's your own team, and it was some of the things that I was just referring to.
Yep.
Like one thing we're doing right now is we have a really small team. They're aptly named the Four Horsemen. They'll know who they are if they happen to watch this recording. And they're playing around with all the technology. We literally gave them free reign. Literally think about anything, use anything, unshackled from ServiceNow.
Love that.
Tell us what are the best ways to do it. They don't have any answers just yet. And it's funny because myself and a couple other leaders are on the same Teams channel with them, and it is named the Four Horsemen. It's kind of funny. It's four guys. And I'm like, I keep asking them questions. They come up with all these great ideas. I tried this, I tried that, I tried this. I'm like, okay, voice of reason. Now, how would I scale that? What would this mean? Like, what would we really do with it? So you tried it in your basement. That's nice. But what's it going to mean for this? And it's a really fast way for us to, it's a fail fast type methodology, and it's not a top-down strategy. And I think that should work pretty good for getting us to this new era. So that's the one going right now. Now, there's the other side, the rest of the company. I think it's always good to consider and talk about that. I'm fortunate with the type of company that I'm at, the position and the reputation of our solution consulting team here at ServiceNow. Our chief customer officer, our presidents of sales, they have a lot of trust in what our organization provides and what even me personally consulting to them on some of these advanced type topics, because they're really not things that typical sales leadership looks at. And so that's the advice piece you're asking for. There's my advice to other like SC leaders. It's, you got to build your relationship with sales. Like I focus heavily on our team and what they're doing and where we're heading and all that. I mean, that's not easy, but like we're pretty good at doing that. And I got lots of help at that. But I'm more concerned in if you ask me what's like my prime job, it's that representing Team SE to the entire 26,000 other members of the company. And not just like, hey, here's what we do. Isn't it great? You want to see some demos? Like, okay, you can do some of that too, right? But hey, who else is on the front line like we are? That's talking to the customer, that's hearing the solutions, that's working with sales even out on the front line.
Yep.
That is working with the technology for real instead of some PowerPoint and some click demos.
Yeah.
We do lots of those too. And getting the feedback at a very direct sense. And so if you can learn how to use some of that, mold some of that, and then offer that as information back to the rest of the company, there's nobody else in our org or our entire company that's doing that. And that helps like me personally for the SE organization build a lot of street cred with the teams right now. And I'll give you a perfect example, and it's always good to have a story to back things up.
It is.
So right now we're in the midst of a big campaign to, as you might imagine, get all our customers to move to our newest Now Assist-based technology. We call it Pro Plus, is the actual SKU names. So we have this big campaign, Go Pro Plus, okay? Now, and I'm helping to spearhead that with a whole bunch of other people. And so to test whether this is even working, because we just put it out and you're talking multi-thousands of account teams, tens of thousands of customers, like, I don't know, is this working? There's the metrics you can read off the forecasts and the pipes, and those are great. We have that data too, but I like what's really going on. So we did an outreach to the 100 accounts, 100 account teams. Hey, you have a renewal coming. Here's the play. We know you have this coming up. Like, have you talked to the customer? You try this? Just would love to hear what's going on. I got like 80% of them replied back to me with very specific detail. Everything from, oh yeah, forget it. My customer won't even let us talk to them about AI because of compliance or this or that. To, nope, I'm way ahead of you. Appreciate the outreach, love it, but we're closing the deal next week. And it's everything in between. And then there's some that could you help me with this? I'm a little concerned. We're gonna do a POC. I don't know how to do that, right? And I don't believe there's a lot of other roles within our companies that could actually get that type of data and combine it with the forecast data. So that's some of the things that we're doing today. I'm showing that back to the
it's fantastic.
Chief Revenue Officer.
I think you've always been leading the way on that, so it's great. Jeff, this has been a great conversation. I'd love to keep going. Really want to say thank you for the partnership and the mentorship over the last couple of years, and thanks for joining me on the Go-to-Market Shift. It's been a great conversation.
Well, I'm going to speak on behalf of the entire global pre-sales community for all the things you've done for furthering our profession. So I wouldn't have jumped in if there hadn't been someone like you.
Cool. I appreciate that. Thanks a lot.